Just cross scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Pod Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, Bobby?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of the Pod Street Bullies. I'm John, the captain today, and I'm here with Just Hoagie. What's going on, brother?
It's everybody's favorite tandem. Whoever thought this would happen?
Yeah. How's it going, bud?
Good. How's everything with you? It's been a while.
Yeah. Well, I didn't plan on going on the last episode because you were supposed to record on my birthday, and then y'all jumped around with the plans and. You know, it was a gym night, and I got to work on getting my swole on. So,
that's right.
But right. So no Derek tonight. He was kind of last minute. Something happened. We hope everything's all right there. And then Casey's on a business trip in Nashville.
Bender.
Yeah, if I know Casey at all, it's quite the business trip.
Yep. Wish I was there with him.
Right. So, I mean, we have a lot to get to. I mean, not necessarily a lot, but some big things, I guess, to talk about. The first being we went from riding high with a 5-game winning streak to now we are limping into the All-Star break with a 5-game losing streak. I mean, it really couldn't have ended any worse than it did, Hoagie. The Boston game, 6-2, was it? At the end?
Yep, 6-2 at the end.
So
that was brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like it was fitting, and I think there is a lot to dissect here. You know, there are people who are absolutely overreacting, and I kind of get it. But, Hoagie, what are your thoughts right now as we're entering the All-Star break on a 5-game losing streak?
I mean, shit happens, honestly. Like, we played a lot of hockey over the past couple of weeks, and there's been a lot of emotional and mental things happening within the organization, and I think this team just needs to catch its breath at this point.
Yep.
And just going into the game with Boston, it was just like, just get through the game. Like, put forward your best effort and just get through it. Because, like, after this, you have a week and a half off and recollect and get back to it. Like, yeah, we were riding high with the 5-game win streak, but, like, we're going to have these sprinkled losses in there, especially when we're playing teams like Colorado, Tampa Bay, and Boston for that matter. Like, all three of those teams are top tier teams in the league. Like, those are kind of expected losses.
I do think, though, this was the first string of games that you could really say that the Flyers were outplayed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, I think watching every game, you just went, this team looks tired. It looks like they've never got it going at all. Every game, pretty much. Yeah. And I mean, what did they let in? It was since their last game, their last win, they let in 7 to the Avalanche, 5 to the Senators, 6 to the Lightning, then 3 to the Red Wings, but it was a shutout, and then 6 to the Bruins, 4 in one period.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, I was surprised by the Bruins game because, like, I walked in the door, turned the game on. Oh, 1-0. That's fine. I'm like, that's a watchable game. It'll be all right. And I sit down and I'm like, oh my God, what just happened? Like 4-0 at the end. I'm like, do I really want to watch this game anymore? Like,
right.
I did, but just to see how everything else would react. Honestly, seeing Clayton Forster get 2 goals in a wonder of a game, that's a highlight. I get excited because that kid really needs to just do that every game.
And you can tell they never really mailed it in, right? They did their best. I mean, I don't know. I sound like I'm talking about, an 8-year-old team, but you could tell that they played until the very end, which I think is what everybody was looking for. Once it was 4-5-0, they were just like, all right, just at least show us some sort of life. And they stayed in the fight. And like you said, man, there's been a lot of hockey going on. And I know they pretend like they completely just block out all the noise. There's no way they're not distracted by what's going on right now.
Oh yeah. There's just so much happening, and I honestly, we're going to talk about this a little bit later on. But the signings, I feel like Danny Barrera was just kind of instill some confidence back into the team and kind of distract them. You know what I mean? Like some good PR around the team. Right. So it helped a little bit, but like they're still limping.
Well, and I think too, like if I can recall, the winter break or the holiday break, they weren't playing their best hockey before that break either. Right. I mean, they had, it wasn't this bad, but if I remember, that was a losing streak as well.
Yeah. I mean, we had lost 4 games in a row right up to January 30 or December 31st. Excuse me.
And there was that one game right before the holidays. It was against Detroit, right? It was like 6-0, and then all of a sudden we took them into overtime.
Yeah, lost in the shootout 7-6.
So I think like a theme seems to be that because of how hard they play, right, and how competitive they are, they do burn out.
Yeah, it's a very hard style of play to sustain over so long.
Right.
And honestly, like they just need to take a deep breath and just rest up this next week and a half, because like it's downhill from here.
Right. And I think a lot of people now are going up. True colors are showing. This is a team in a playoff spot for now, but they feel like they're going to start to bottom out here a little bit. Where are you with that?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think they still have plenty of games to really be playing meaningful hockey, for that matter. I mean, missing Owen Tippett from the lineup is brutal, because he was on a heater before that injury against, was that the Avalanche?
I believe so. Yeah.
And like he brings something to this team that we obviously need. So like losing him for the past 4 or 5 games, that's been brutal. And hopefully by the time we come back from All-Star break, he's good to go, because I think they were just calling him day to day for the time being. So like I think that'll help with this, break.
And give him the time to rest. Right. Yeah. I mean, like, if he's nursing an injury, I think it was smart to just let him rest out until the break. He gets extended time off now. I mean, I think that like the team has done enough to this point to view them as a legitimate playoff team.
Right.
I think like, this 5-game losing streak stinks, but it's an 82-game season. Moments like this are going to happen.
Yep.
Still allow them the credit of being a competitive team that's currently in a playoff position. They've done more good than bad at this point.
Right. Yeah.
And even the good teams have bumps in the road. I mean, I'm not ready to put them up there with the upper echelon of the NHL. I do think if they make the playoffs, they've still outperformed everybody's expectations by a lot.
No, absolutely. I mean, honestly, look at what the Oilers were doing at the beginning of the season. They were blundering through, and like now they're one of the hottest teams in the league.
Did they win again yesterday? Is it 16 in a row?
I think they won yesterday to tie second, or for the longest streak. I forget.
I think the longest streak is 17.
Yeah, I think they tied it. They're in the second echelon right now. But yeah, they're playing like a team that turned it around real quick. So I mean, this happens to good teams, and honestly, there probably is sprinkled in a little luck with this team, but they're playing really good hockey regardless.
I do think the thing that does worry me right now is the goals against. I mean, we are not a team that can allow the opposition to score 5, 6, 7 goals a game. We are never going to win games like that. And now you just look at the current situation in goal and you're going, uh-oh. Like, if that's the one thing, right, that worries me, it's this: we're seeing an uncharacteristic amount of goals scored against them.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's on Urson, just because he just kind of got handed the reins. Like, here you go. This is now yours to take over. And I don't think he was expecting that right off the bat. And honestly, like we've said, everything around the team has they're losing their identity. They're not blocking as many shots. Nick Sealer is I'm afraid he's going to be in a bubble wrap all week.
Right.
Like, he's been blocking 10 shots a game.
Right.
Like, not the whole team isn't doing what they were used to doing during the winning streak. So like, yeah, it's just been a weird combination of things just falling apart at the same time. And I think, like I said, clear your head, and Urson will lock it down as he gets more playing time. I think he was just kind of thrown into a surprise there.
Right. And we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, there's a good chance maybe players or management has a better idea of like how long this could possibly be, and the idea of that pressure getting into your head is very real too. And I don't want to make excuses, but I'm still very confident in Urson. I think we could be in a much worse spot than we are in terms of having to rely on somebody. But it'll be interesting. I mean, I think I heard today that the Flyers have the 17th strongest schedule left, which really puts them kind of in the middle, right? They've kind of played a lot of their more challenging games, especially on the road to this point. So they're in an all right spot in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, that is an all right spot. I mean, honestly, middle of the road from here on out is kind of what I expected this team to be at this point in the season, at the beginning of the season, because I thought they were that playoff bubble team. So like 17% right in the middle for hardest schedule going down, that'll make or break where you're on, whether you're golfing in April or you're playing playoff hockey.
Right. And I think too, like, nobody wants a 5-game losing streak, but having a forced end to it, where it's like now they have a break, like you couldn't ask for better in terms of a really crappy situation where it's like, this isn't going to go to 6 because they have to play again on Monday.
Exactly. Yeah.
It could still very well go to 6 games.
It could. I mean, they come back from the break and they play the Florida Panthers, who are another powerhouse of a team right now in the East. And the East is starting to flip-flop. It's now like the Atlantic Division is taking over, where the Metro was taking over. So like the Atlantic's going to get scary down the road, but I mean they have Florida, Winnipeg, Seattle, and then Arizona. So there's a couple games in there where they can kind of get their bearings right back into it before the exciting Stadium Series game.
The interesting thing about the Metro is it's a division that I think once they all start playing each other more frequently too is really going to cannibalize one another.
Yep, absolutely.
Where there's just so much parity in this division that it's like no one is really going to jump ahead.
Exactly. They've all played the rest of the NHL, and like I kind of like that, because leading up to the playoffs, that could really kind of boil down to some playoff animosity if you see that team again. So I like how they're doing that. I would like it better if they started doing like home and homes, and if we played our division rivals more often like we did back in the day, because like these only 3 or 4 game series it's not worth it to me anymore.
Well, I also feel just like in general, rivalries in sports have really fizzled out.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that like the just overall hatred for teams is really, it's not the same as it used to be.
It really hasn't. It's completely changed. I mean, earlier on we had that home and home series with the Penguins, and like you could feel that starting to fizz, to be the old school battle of Pennsylvania. But like now we're not going to see them for another couple months at this point. Like it fizzes out, like you said.
Right. I mean, and it's hard when both teams aren't competitive at the same time, too.
Right.
But all right. I mean, is there really anything else to dissect with this losing streak?
Yeah. No, they just need to rest up, man. Like that thing with Torts yesterday and Urson between the first and second period. I mean, Torts said it at the end of the game, like, don't put this loss on Sam. Like, obviously, it's the whole team. They're going through a lot. Urson's he's standing on his head for, just becoming a number 1 goalie over a week. Like, And I think Torts gave him, honestly, everybody said he's bad with the young guys, but I think with these young guys, he's really propelling them to be better athletes and just better men, honestly.
Well, right. I mean, honestly, like I knew of Tortorella obviously as a coach when he was elsewhere, but it was always the sound bites. It was always the clips of this hothead, right?
Right.
But like
yeah.
being able to see him now, like he really is a coach of the mind. Like you can tell that development as both a player and a person is like top on his list of priorities.
Mm-hmm. And the game too, honestly.
Right. And I think that like for a young team, that's what you need. Not everybody responds well to that, to be like, I already have a dad kind of thing. But but I do think that like for this particular team, especially the people that we're keeping around are very receptive to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, everybody said it that they wanted Torts years and years ago. But I think right now where this team is and where this franchise is, he's the right man for the job for right now.
Right. So. Agreed. And the relationship that he's creating with Briere and Jonesy, like it seems like he's going to be a part of this for the long haul, even if he's not coaching, even if he's the entire not behind time.
The bench. Right? Yep, absolutely. I like that because I could listen to him talk about hockey all day long.
Yep.
Like there's just something about the way he sees the game. It's just he sees it differently than a lot of people, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, so I think we can move on to more of the newsy stuff. I was starting to wonder what time of year it was when all of a sudden we were getting these extension, news breaks. But the big one is Owen Tippett is extended. It is 8 years, $6.2 million per. Is that what it is, Hoagie?
Yes, sir. 49.6 value. Wild.
What do you think?
That's a great team-friendly deal, honestly. It's still a movable contract. I mean, we're in a rebuild. That's a rebuildable contract. If you want to keep him here as your core, if he's not working out, then you can ship him. But I think Danny Briere is starting to solidify his core of what the Philadelphia Flyers is about to be, and I that just makes me excited for the future. And Danny Briere putting his ink and his touch on this franchise.
When I read 8 years. And the fact that it was only $6 million and change, I was ecstatic.
Oh, absolutely.
Because when I think of 8 years for a guy like Owen Tippett, I'm thinking of what you're paying him for the future. And for the future, this guy could be an $8-9 million guy.
Absolutely.
He might not be, but if you look at his goal scoring capabilities, like you're looking at 30-40 goals a year down the road.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And you're getting
very high potential.
Right. And you're getting that for $6.2 million with the cap going up. Sign me up.
Absolutely. And everybody kind of cringed when they saw the 8 year because we saw contracts like Voracek, like Simmons, like those types of guys that were like, why are we paying these wingers so much for so long? And I think this finally Briere's like, listen, you're a winger. Like, You proved to us that you want to be here and that you want to be successful. Here's a pay bump. 8 years down the line, you want to still be here, then we'll talk another extension for more money. I think it's smart.
I think so too. I mean, I really just don't see a scenario where this is bad for the Flyers unless he runs into injury history. I mean, even if he's a 25-30 goal scorer, I can swallow $6.2 million.
Yeah, I can't swallow the Voracek years where he was just eating up freaking cash for 25-30.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but I think what you said is the more important part. Like you're starting to see the core develop.
Yep.
Right. Briere is starting to pick his guys. And I think that's important for Briere to know, but I think it's important for the players to know too. For Owen Tippett, who really had some speed bumps at the beginning of his NHL career, to now be in a position where it's like, okay, I have this security for the next 8 years and change. I think is huge.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And and he's young too, right? 24 years old. It fits their mold. It's exactly what they're looking for, and it's just huge upside for this. And again, you're looking at a player that has not hit his prime.
You know,
Right.
his prime years are still, 2-3 years away,
Out of reach.
maybe?
Something like that. Yep. 28, 29.
So this contract has the potential to look amazing.
Absolutely. And honestly, you said it's good for the team. It's good for the franchise. It's good for the fans too, because they have somebody to cheer for and know through the next 8 years. You know what I'm saying? Like that,
Right.
that creates revenue, stuff like that. Like it's good because now we're thinking, hey, we have our star winger now too.
Sure.
Or our second
Until
line
Mitch
winger
Goff
to
shows
lock
up.
down. Right. But I mean there you go. That's just their plan for Mitch Goff. Here's another winger to help produce for you.
Oh, and I think too, like when you are dealing with a rebuild, it's very easy to ice a roster of guys where it's like you're all just not going to be here
Right.
down the road, and you're only thinking about the potential of prospects. Like when I think about the Hextall years, right, it was a lot of like, okay, well, we've got Dale Weiss, but hopefully we're going to get this person in a few years. Like now, at least you can kind of grab on to somebody like Owen Tippett and know that he's a part of both the present and the future.
Exactly. Yep.
So before we move on to the next one, which was puzzling to me, if you were to grab onto one piece of this deal that might have somebody feeling negative about it, the Owen Tippett deal, can you come up with one?
Yeah, our favorite Chucky term, no trade clause.
Was it 10 team?
It's 10 team modified, no trade clause for the middle 4 years. So it's 2 years, nothing, middle 4, and then the last 2. But yeah. I mean, that's really the only thing I can really pick apart about it.
You also wonder too, like if there wasn't a no trade clause, would it be $7 million a year, or something like that too?
Right. Yeah.
Which at this point, I feel like if we're in a position where we want to trade Owen Tippett, he's going to want to leave too, because it means it just isn't working and we haven't taken the next step.
Yeah, we're still really rebuilding at that point.
Right.
So,
well, the other one, Ryan Poehling gets a 2-year extension. This, Hoagie, you might have to help me here, is like 1 point something.
1.9.
Okay. So not a big paycheck.
Yeah.
But this one puzzled me a little bit, Hoagie. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, obviously we brought him here on a 1 year, 1.4 mil deal this year for prove it. I don't even know if it was really a prove it. It was just kind of like, let's fill a void. Here's a capable NHL guy. $500,000 upgrade. I mean, he does his job well. Obviously, they like him. I like him. He shuts it down. He's playing third line minutes right now.
Right.
I think he fits the mold perfectly for that 3C.
Yeah.
And that honestly, we can slide Lawton to the wing or the fourth line if need be, because he is a Scott Lawton-esque type player.
Yeah, I mean, arguably you want a little bit more offensive production, I think, from your third line than what Poehling can provide.
Right.
But I think for right now it's okay. Initially for me it was just like, why? He just seemed like such a replaceable player.
Right.
In terms of
we have guys down in the system that could replace.
Right. And I think that's where the fan understanding of the rebuild comes into play too, because I think in our minds, it's like, well, you have these players that are replaceable. You'll eventually just replace them with prospects, when in reality, you can't always count on that. So, the more you think about it, it's like, well, if this guy is gelling well in the locker room, which he seems to be happy to be here. Tortorella seems to like him. It's a safe person to have in your lineup.
Absolutely.
Especially for the 1 point whatever he's making for the next 2 years.
And if he's sitting in the press box, I can eat that.
Right. I mean, I do think you would like to have him centering your fourth line.
And honestly, that's where he's supposed to be this year. But some injuries have derailed that and stuff like that. And players have been playing better than they were expected to. So he's been getting upgrades in minutes, which I think he deserves.
But I do think like it's also a movable contract where it's like if there is a log jam, if there's a log jam, I mean, he's an easy player to trade. You might not get much back for him, but I feel like you can ship him elsewhere.
Right. I also said that in our group chat with High and Wide, like I said with Owen Tippett, still rebuilding. It's a movable contract if needed. And honestly, he's a serviceable third, fourth line guy on a Stanley Cup team for a run. Like you can move that at the deadline easily. So it'll be interesting to see how this one shakes out.
One question that I have about, I guess both of these, but more the Paling deal, because the Owen Tippett one, it kind of makes sense. But why now? Like
why this time of year?
Right. Again, Tippett I get because this is a player that you're going to invest a lot of years and money into. But why extend Ryan Paling right now?
Honestly, I don't know. And he was an RFA too.
Right.
Yeah, like we had his rights till I don't know. Like I said earlier, I think that was just kind of Danny Briere trying to get something positive around the team rather than all the negative that's been around. But like, still very interesting time of year to sign players right before the All-Star game. Like, honestly, he's believing in his team and he's showing these guys that he believes in them. So like, maybe that'll help him as well, saying, "Hey, like, we're investing in you guys."
Well, that's the thing too. I wonder if it's a part of building his reputation as a general manager, right? Like,
so our friend can't join the pod, but he can comment on the pod.
There you go, Derek. Jeez, bye-bye, Lawton.
I don't think that's the case. I don't know. What do you think about that? A lot of people are under the impression that Lawton is gone come soon because they're investing in Paling.
I don't think they necessarily go hand in hand.
I don't think so either.
I think that if this team is continuing to push for the playoffs, they're not going to trade Scott Lawton this in season. That would just completely just blow things up in my mind. The only person who wears an A, right? That's still a thing. He's still the only person who's wearing an A.
The only person. According to Cap Friendly, Couturier does as well, but he does not. He's never won one this season. You know,
somebody who clearly just bleeds being a Flyer. I don't see it in season. I do think that, like, I wouldn't shock me if he got traded down the road. It does seem like there are a few players that can replace him. I again argue that the best time to trade him was last year, but that's all past us now.
Right.
But what I was saying was I do think that, like, Briere extending Paling now kind of sets a reputation where it's like, if you come and you play for us, like, I'm going to give you the respect you deserve. You know, if you kind of buy into what it's like to be a Flyer in this new era of orange, then I'm not going to wait around. I'm going to show you that I want you to stay here.
Right.
So I think that more than ever, right, where players really get to choose where they want to be long term, like, those little things I think go a long way.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, Briere talks about this so much, as like when he was a free agent, he wanted to come to Philly because he heard how much of a class act organization it is. I think he's starting to instill that into the players so that they start talking, you know, to other desirable players in the league. Right. And it creates the good karma for the Flyers. You know, Paling could say, "Hey, so-and-so that I played with 3 years ago, Flyers are playing, and if you want to buy in, they'll buy into you." And that's going to be huge. I think the Flyers have turned a lot of heads and a lot of eyes this season, and they're playing a fun style of hockey right now. And it's gonna draw some attention for potential free agent splashes or signing or trades.
Right. It's crazy how quickly just Briere and Jonesy and Tortorella were able to just flip the switch on the culture. You know, I mean, it really was just that 1 year of Tortorella where there was some suffering. But once Briere and Jones got involved, this became a respectable organization again.
Absolutely.
You know, before, when it was Chuck, like, I could just picture Kevin Hayes sitting down with his buddies talking about how ridiculous it was here. I could even picture
Absolutely.
Claude Giroux being like, you would never believe what we're freaking doing in the locker room.
Right.
You don't get that feel anymore.
No, absolutely not. And honestly, it comes down to the press conferences that they have. They're all saying the same thing. Whether it's not verbatim, it's the same thing in different ways, and it's the same message. We're rebuilding and we're instilling the new era of Orange, and it's refreshing to see, because back in the day with Chuck Fletcher, he would say one thing and then Dave Scott would say another, and it would just leave everybody confused. And I mean, even Tortorella to a point would say one thing compared to what they were saying, and no one knew what actually was happening. With this regime, everybody knows what's happening. They're just there to play hockey, get butts in seats, and just, pack the Wells Fargo, and they've been doing that.
Right.
Even with the alumni game on Friday night against Boston,
right.
It seemed like a lot of people had fun that night.
Right.
So it's doing those little things and instilling the confidence back into the fan base to get us on the right track here.
Yeah. And I guess speaking of track, the last thing that I want to bring up, and we really didn't prepare for this, but I figure we're really short. I mean, we've been doing this and it's going to go by really quick. When we get back from All-Star break, trade talk is going to start to pick up. And the Flyers are in an incredibly interesting position where they are not a bottom 5 team. They are not your typical seller.
Right.
However, they have, once again, and I mean, they keep saying we are sticking to the rebuilding plan. What does the trade deadline look like to you?
It's going to be interesting. Right. Honestly, from a fan standpoint, I kind of want them to just stand pat. Maybe bring in a veteran guy, but not give up picks or prospects. Maybe swap a couple guys that aren't fitting the mold or something. I know Briere and company are not going out and making big splashes for big free agents, because that's not in their plan. And they've stuck to that. Like I've said, they're on the same plan. We're not going to go out there and waste picks and prospects just because we've played ourselves into a good position in a playoff spot. And I respect that. Ride what you have, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and you have some expiring contracts that you can just let go by the wayside. So it's going to be interesting coming up.
Right. I mean, there will definitely be fans where it's like, if we don't sell off pieces and we don't win a playoff round or whatever, they'll say the season's a failure because you didn't get assets for your expiring contracts. I don't agree with that mentality. I do think there are deals out there where it's like, if somebody's going to give you a first rounder for Walker, you probably need to do it.
Right. If it's a deal that makes sense for the long term, Briere's going to do it. Absolutely.
Right. I would be shocked if they stand completely pat. I think someone will be traded. Because I think either Walker or Sealer, someone is going to offer the Flyers more than they can turn down.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, I think both of them might even be an option to go, because I mean, we have these guys in the system that could slot in. I mean, you've got Andre that's knocking on the door. You have Adder, and is there a third one? I feel like I'm
What's that? Helge Grans? I don't even know if he's played at all. Or
I think he is playing with Lehigh Valley, and I think he's doing pretty well. But obviously, you have Adder and Andre that are doing pretty well. So I mean, if they're ready to take the step and kind of go on a small little playoff push, let them roll. I would like to see that, but they've really played themselves into a very interesting proposition. For
the first time in a while, we are entering the deadline in a position of strength because they don't have to do anything.
Right. And if they don't do anything, oh well.
And I think they have some desirable pieces. Like, I think that Nick Sealer for a playoff push would be really intriguing for some teams.
If one of these teams loses a very beneficial defenseman for a long time, Sealer's that type of guy, and that'll be Danny just dangling the carrot and say, how much you want for him? Pay me for him. like you said, we're in a great position to make out on top.
I'm going to make a little bit of a prediction, though. If they don't trade Sealer by the deadline, within a week, he'll have an extension.
Absolutely.
I think, they're not extending him now. They're not doing the paling thing because it's like you need to see if somebody's going to go out and overpay for him.
Right.
But I do think that if they end up keeping him, they're going to extend him, which I'd be happy with because, I mean, he is a flyer through and through.
Did you say just Sealer or did you say Sealer and Walker?
I said just Sealer because I don't know. I think Walker, even if he doesn't get traded, which I just think he's going to. I don't know if they'd extend him, especially with the hell's his name? Who did we just get? Drysdale,
right? Honestly, Sealer's the easier move to make, just based on cap hit,
right?
Because he's 775 and Walker's 2.6. So I mean,
right. And I think Sealer
that'll be Danny just playing numbers at that point,
right? And Sealer just has a realistic ceiling where it's like I'll give you this because we love what you do, and you don't
right
deserve more.
Yeah, and you're not going to ask for more.
Walker is the kind of guy where it's like you could see some dumb team overpaying for him dollar-wise,
Oh, absolutely. Just based off of this past season with showing off what he can do. Right. I mean, obviously, he was probably able to do it before, but he wasn't turning heads like he is right now because, like, he was in LA and not many people are watching West Coast hockey. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, right. East Coast hockey, a lot of people are like, who the hell is this Sean Walker guy? He's turning heads.
Yeah. But, all right. I mean, now the Flyers are off till what? Next Tuesday?
That like February 6th, I think it was.
Yeah. I think that's next Tuesday.
Yeah. Yep. It is.
All right. Well, I hope they rest up and they're able to wipe out this losing streak from our minds.
Seriously. It's been dismal, to say the least.
Not fun hockey to watch. But
yeah.
Anyway, man, you got anything else to add?
No, I think we covered everything. Had to touch on the big things that have happened over the past couple of days because signing a big time name like Owen Tippett within the organization gets everybody excited. And
I mean, they don't play for a week, but there's always something big that might break. So if there is a
trade, could have a signing, who knows?
I'm thinking about something else, but that's just me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
On that note, I think this is where we say goodbye.
Tally-ho.
Do we need to do a thing?
Let's not do the thing.
Listen to us, follow our affiliates. It's great. Bye now.
Bye now.